Let's look at what SpaceX has been up to in Florida because there has been a lot of exciting stuff going on there for a long time. However, it is nearly always eclipsed by the primary plotline unfolding at Starbase, Texas. Florida is now a side project for SpaceX, but that doesn't mean it's unimportant. Once the Starship program moves past the experimental stage and the new Super Heavy rocket begins regular service from NASA's Kennedy Space Center Pad 39A, Florida is shaping up to be the new center of the program. Not only is the future of Starship in Florida, but there is also a solid link to the rocket's past. There is a lesser-known phase in Elon Musk's Mars rocket's evolution. According to our sources, this unassuming strip of flat ground on the Florida coast is prime real estate for SpaceX to construct its fleet of gleaming silver starships that will ferry humanity from Earth to Mars. From the Space Coast, the Starship will launch and land. However, the specifics of how it will function are yet unknown, which is something else we need to discuss. So here's why Florida is more vital to the SpaceX Starship journey than you might believe. Let's start with the Starship created in Florida that never was. The disastrous first attempt to build the Starship near NASA's Space Center. Most people know that Elon Musk purchased a large tract of land in Boca Chica, Texas, to test new SpaceX activities. However, fewer people may be aware that he also purchased land in Cocoa, Florida, a little village on the mainland near Cape Canaveral, the hub of the American space program. Beginning in 2019, these two locations began concurrent research on prototypes for what would become the Starship upper stage, a 9-meter diameter stainless steel rocket capable of landing vertically under a rocket power like a thick Falcon 9, but with a far larger purpose in the future. The Florida Starship installation was much smaller in scale than the Boca Chica installation because Cocoa was populated with homes and businesses. In contrast, Boca Chica was a desolate wasteland inhabited by about 50 people living in a single block of ranch houses frozen in time since the late 1960s. Although they both produced Starship prototypes, it appears SpaceX intended to pursue only short-term activities at one production facility. Instead, they wanted options to see which team could design a superior spaceship independently of the others. I shouldn't tell you who won the design contest. In addition to the Boca Chica rocket being a superior product, we can see the benefits they received by creating their launch pad, located just a short distance down the highway from their manufacturing bay. Even though Cocoa is the closest mainland community to Cape Canaveral, the journey for a Starship rocket, which must be kept vertical at all times to maintain structural integrity, would take down a public highway, across a bridge to an island, where it could be loaded into a barge floated down the canal that splits Merritt Island, and finally north through the sea and the narrow waterways to be loaded back onto a vehicle for the final leg to SpaceX launch. So it's not surprising that they abandoned their plans for Starship in Florida. Compared to the brief ride down an empty highway, it's absurdly difficult. There were some challenges with Cocoa's steel production as well, and the Boca Chica team just happened to have an advantage in design and logistics. But later, Starship would hugely return to Florida. Elon Musk has stated numerous times that for this Mars colony proposal to succeed, a vast fleet of Starships constructed by SpaceX, numbering up to 1,000 individual spacecraft, will be required, so SpaceX will need its version of a Tesla Gigafactory, a highly optimized and automated production plant capable of producing enormous quantities of a product as rapidly and cheaply as feasible. And they've been hard at work on Cape Canaveral creating version 1 of that Starship factory. As previously said, this new base of operations is prime real estate, particularly in comparison to the old Cocoa site, which is still in use but has been relegated to a bakery producing Starship heat shield tiles. The new SpaceX operations area at the Cape is located on Roberts Road at the Space Coast's north end. It is located in the same neighborhood as the Kennedy Space Center, just down the Kennedy Parkway from all of the primary excitement. NASA's Vehicle Assembly Building and the old Space Shuttle landing strip are on the same road. And just around the corner are the two most critical launch pads on the Cape, 39B for the SLS and the Artemis program, 39A for SpaceX, Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Starship launches will also take place at Launch Complex 39A in the future. It's similar to the current scenario in the Boca Chica scenario. A manufacturing plant and launch pad are located close down the road. The Raptor engine, manufactured in McGregor, Texas, will be the only component needed to ship in. However, things may be easily transferred through the Port of Houston, over the Gulf of Mexico, and into Florida. It's not a huge deal. It's a considerably more straightforward approach than what NASA has devised for the SLS, in which the complete booster core must be brought from New Orleans and floated into the Cape on a massive barge. The first phase of the Star Factory on Roberts Road has already begun. It's being built directly adjacent to a SpaceX facility dedicated to refurbishing Falcon 9 rockets between flights. Furthermore, the region cleared for Starship is roughly 3 times the size of the Falcon 9 operation. So yes, the Star Factory location has only been used to construct segments for the Starship Stage 0 at 39A. This is the enormous steel tower, complete with robot arms, a quick detach fueling system, and the orbital launch mount, which has its own connection system for fueling and spinning up the Raptor engines. The new Star Factory, however, will have the same infrastructure as Starbase, Texas, based on the foundations laid. Just on a much smaller scale and with a considerably smaller footprint, a low and broader facility to manufacture the stainless steel ring segments, engine thrust box, and piping. The ring segments are subsequently stacked into super heavy boosters and starships in a series of vertical assembly facilities. This construction is currently moving at a considerably faster pace than it was in Boca Chica. While the first ring manufacture and component production has traditionally been done in tent-like sprung structures in Texas, the facility in Florida is a permanent solid factory. This is just the beginning for Starbase, Florida. According to fresh SpaceX ideas, up to 100 acres of additional land to the north of the current site could be developed shortly. In addition, the extension would increase the footprint of the Starship manufacturing facility, giving Starbase Florida an area comparable to Starbase Texas. Now, thank you for reaching this point. Make sure to finish this video to know more. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe if you are new to this channel, and like, comment, share, and hit the notification bell for more upcoming videos like this. According to SpaceX, the area will be used for office space as well as facilities for fabrication, payload processing, storage, manufacturing, shipping, and receiving. The SpaceX would also pave the dirt road leading north from their plant up to Schwartz Road, providing them with a better avenue for carrying rockets to the launch site. Being on site at the Kennedy Space Center also gives Starship new launch and landing possibilities that would not have had at Starbase, Texas. They have access to Launch Complex 39A, a historic launch pad that served as the starting point for the Apollo program and the Space Shuttle. Currently, this is the only crew-rated launch point in the United States. It's a vast region, and SpaceX has already begun building one Starship tower in addition to their Falcon launch tower. There's enough space for another Starship tower beyond that. The landing pad is another infrastructure that SpaceX has on the Cape. They are the only rocket firm with such a need, which brings us to even more future possibilities for Starship. So, if you look at the components made for the 39A Starship launch tower, we can see that the robotic chopstick arms have already been made and are waiting to be fitted. However, there is a slight difference between these Florida chopstick arms and the Boca Chica tower arms. Florida's arms are substantially shorter and stumpier than the Boca Chica equivalents, leading experts to believe that the 39A launch tower will not perform the catch maneuver on the rocket and Starship. Elon Musk envisioned his robotic Starship tower dubbed Mechazilla, as a single machine capable of supporting both the launch and landing of the Starship and very heavy. The arms would act as a device to stack the rocket on top of the launch mount and perform a catch as the rocket stages gently descend under the engine's power. As the engines shut down, the booster would decelerate to hover directly beside the tower, and the arms would clamp together like chopsticks to grasp and cradle the rocket. On the other hand, the stumpy new components for Pad 39A appear to be counterintuitive to the landing method. The smaller the margin of error for the booster landing approach, the shorter the arms. It simply does not make sense. At the same time, observers on the Cape have noticed components for a second Starship tower being laid out. We assumed that meant launch/landing towers at 39A, but they may be building one launch tower and one landing tower. SpaceX already does this with a Falcon booster, in the rare case where the booster returns to land on solid ground, such as with a Falcon Heavy launch. The booster landing does not take place in the exact location of the launch. SpaceX landing zones are substantially further south on the coast. It's a barren location off the shore bordered solely by retired launch sites that have been abandoned for years and are being actively reclaimed by nature. This is because landing a rocket is far more unpredictable than launching one. Returning to 39A, the Starship Tower is only a few hundred meters from the Falcon launch tower, the only crew-rated launch pad in the United States. We've seen what occurs when a Starship lands at Boca Chica during the testing phase in 2021. Those explosions sent debris into the atmosphere, which landed kilometers from the launch pad. A similar explosion at 39A can potentially damage the Falcon launch tower severely, and NASA requires the Falcon 9 launch facility to transport personnel to the International Space Station. As a result, SpaceX is unlikely to be permitted to launch and land the Super Heavy rocket and Starship from the same Florida tower. Instead, they'll probably do it from Starbase in Texas, because there's nothing else nearby to trash. And maybe they'll be able to pull off enough successful catch maneuvers from there that things will change one day at Cape Canaveral. However, we anticipate that the next SpaceX construction project will be customized Starship landing zone with a distinct capture tower. So that's the tale up to this point, somewhere far away from anything that doesn't want to be bombarded with burning shrapnel. But the beautiful thing about SpaceX is that it is always going forward at breakneck speed. So new chapters are being written all the time, and we know that the best is yet to come. And that's it. Thank you for watching. Before you leave, are you planning to buy a C8 Corvette? But you don't know if this is the right time to buy it? We got you. To see if it's the right time to buy the car, click and watch this video here. See you there!